Capri, and welcome to We the GamerCast. It publishes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play every single Monday. Thank you for subscribing and listening and telling your mom and telling your mom's friend that you probably should know better, but for whatever reason, we've all got lives. We can't know all of our mom's friends, but you told her about the show. Thank you guys so much. It's so good that you're here. This is a classic episode, but in case you're new, here's the deal. Every week I have Sweet Hangs with a stranger from the internet. We talk about life and games, and if you want to be on the show, just tweet at me at Sean Capri. Sean like Connery, Capri like the pants. That's kind of what I say every week. The whole, like, if you want to be on the show, tweet at me. Here's the thing. I think we're going to be we're heading on into the end of the year here, guys. I think we might be reaching back into the catalog of guests who we had on in 2021. Can you believe, like, Christmas is almost here? Like, we're almost going to be celebrating 2022. Oh man, I don't know how that hits anybody else, but it's a little weird. But anyways, I think what we might do, because I feel like I've told pretty much everybody on this show so far, it's like, okay, you got to be back. Well, I want to have some people back, so you guys should be looking forward to that. Holy crap, I am up to my eyeballs in all of the games, you guys. Hopefully you have been doing well. I'm at this moment of recording, I'm moments away from beating Metroid, and then Ryan Turford and I are going to be doing a review on that you can catch on the Nintendo Drive podcast. Go subscribe to that. And then trying to finish up Far Cry 6, as if apparently that game has an ending. Apparently there is an actual way to complete that game, but I haven't seen it yet. It is forever long, and Brian and I have been talking about that on the Xbox Drive, and hopefully you guys will go check that out. My goodness, it feels like we're on a bit of a roll here on We the GamerCast. I don't know about you. I'm feeling great about the guests we've had, about the guests we've got this week. I'm so excited. And if you guys are excited as well, and if you want to support this show and the Nintendo Drive and the Xbox Drive and all the other shows, you can go to patreon.com/YumiCapri, just like our Capremium producers, Dallas Ford, Lee Navarro, the fearless leader of the Phoenix Overdrive Extra Life team, and I'll talk about that in a second, and Jonathan Brown, the man behind the music on the Xbox Drive and the Nintendo Drive, and you can support Jonathan Brown. Please do at youtube.com/PM Entertainment. Our platinum producers, Robbie Bobby Miller and Trucker Sloth. Our gold members, Argo, Benji Kong, Brendan Myers, Dallas Robbins, Dano, Emily O'Kelly, Foolish Fuji, Joel Brooks, Jose Jimenez, Mac Time, Marcus O'Neill, Mr. and Mrs. Nasty Boots, RJ Kern, Skinny Matt, and Xavier Reyes. You guys, whew, I'm actually kind of a little bit out of breath. I'm working myself up here. I have to say, as we're rounding the corner here and coming to the end of the year, I'm going to be traveling a little bit here. I will be in Toronto. Yes, in Toronto, I will be in that city. I'm going to be meeting up with people. If you are in the Toronto area, you should DM me, because I would love to hang out. We can have sweet hangs in real life. It's one thing to have sweet hangs here on the internet, but it's another thing to have sweet hangs in real life in Toronto. So the reason I'm there is for a Fan Expo. To be honest with you, we are like less than a week away as I record this. We're like 6 days away from this thing. I don't know what's happening. I bought tickets to this thing. It's sort of like it's kind of like a Comic-Con, but like for all the things, there's comics there's video games apparently. I don't know. Don't even care. Like it's sort of just like a reason to fly out, and flights were cheap because of the whole situation. And so there. I'm going to be meeting up with Ryan Turford and a bunch of other people. So Toronto is happening. And then also Extra Life. We haven't talked about Extra Life, and it like kind of snuck up on us. We are less than a month away. extra-life.org/participant/Sean Capri. You guys can donate today, get entered into some prizes. I've got to update my page because I've got some prizes I'm going to tell you guys about. But I will be in Rome, New York. So very cool. I got travel coming up, all for video games. This is the coolest thing, man. I do feel like this is the next stage. Hopefully, as we maybe at one point get out of this dang pandemic, because I got to tell you guys, I want to travel the world. I want to go, like, we want to like do like meetups and stuff. I feel like that's kind of the next stage for this whole Yumi Capri thing. So I'm excited. Toronto is kind of the first step. Very cool. Okay. I think that's all I wanted to tell you guys. I got them my OLED. I have a lot to talk about my new Nintendo Switch. Holy crap, and people call me an Xbot, and I've got all these Nintendo Switches. I spent the day transferring from the old Switch to the new Switch, and that's a super fun time. I don't know how... Oh, God, so much to talk about. Oh, and the Animal Crossing Direct. Holy crap. So, yeah, the Nintendo Drive is really something you guys are going to want to pay attention to this week, because we are ramping up over there. But we'll save it for that, because right now... the man, the myth, the legend, which, well, maybe you don't know about Delroy. Delroy introduced himself to me a little while ago, and he's like, hey, I'd love to be on the show. I don't do a podcast or anything. I'm like, perfect. This is great. I would love to have more people on who don't have podcasts. This is awesome. A classic stranger from the internet, just we've never met, and this is what you get. This is an awesome chat. I'm so happy with this. Thank you, Delroy, for reaching out to me, and why don't we just go ahead and jump right into it. Here he is, my new friend, Delroy. No doubt. Well, I'm about to. I don't know about you. I'm thinking about upgrading to that there Windows 11, but I feel like I might just. I'm fighting the urge because usually I'm right there, and I upgrade like day one, and then I regret it for some reason. I'm like, let me just find out what catastrophes are out there before I jump in.
We're the beta testers, so no doubt about it. No doubt. Yeah.
Are you gonna do it? Are you gonna upgrade to 11, or what are you doing?
I mean, I gotta have it. I gotta have it in Q Tech, right?
Okay. So, dude, that tells me like so much about you just right there.
Yeah.
Like, do you feel like this? Like, because some people might go like, I didn't even know Windows 11 was a thing. Like, there's a whole spectrum,
My wife said the same thing we were hearing about on a podcast the other day, and she was telling me, and she's like, I didn't even know that was a thing. And I'm like, I know, I was already considering upgrading, and so she, it's wild. Like there's so little fanfare behind this one. It's kind of crazy. Yep. And I think a lot of that probably comes from them saying that 10 was going to be the final one, and then now here comes 11. So I'm just really, it's crazy.
I'm always down for it, though. I don't know what it is, whether it's like upgrading my Xbox or, I mean, people, if they updated like the Switch to get some sort of like OS update or UI or something like that, like people would be pretty stoked about it. So, anybody who doesn't really understand the Windows upgrade fanfare can just like, there's a linkage somewhere. People get excited about new features on their phone or their Switch or whatever.
Right.
It looks very smooth, man.
Very good, very good. I mean, I think that looks, I'm just hoping it improves gaming performance. I mean, I'm on a computer all day, working. So I like the PC game, but like, I mean, yeah, man, that's what I'm really doing. I'm not coming home to to do some documents or something. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
Is that like your primary, like where you're gaming is on PC, or you just happen to have a PC that can do games?
It's more the latter. I'm more of I game on console mostly if I can. I'm mainly, I guess I could say mainly Xbox, but I like my Switch, and I have a PlayStation. I do the exclusives on, but it's pretty much I game where I can game. I love it. I just whatever I can get my hands on.
How dare you not pick a side? How dare you actually just buy all the things and not battle people in the store and everything like that? Take to Twitter. Tell people they're not allowed to like stuff.
I was just thinking about it today. How similar gaming has become to sports in a lot of ways with fans, and I mean we're like tribal as all heck, and so it's crazy. We just get real serious about this stuff, and it's like I just want to have some fun. So
it's funny you say sports because just as you were jumping into the Skype call here, I was looking at a video that I wasn't sure if it was a joke or not. Like there's this Barstool Sports, and there was this dude going up to John Cusack, like the actor, telling him he can't be a fan of the White Sox or something, and it's like, I don't know if this is like a joke or not, like because they were basing on like whether or not he was like a bandwagon jumper or something. It's like, man, that just keeps people out. Like honestly, it just makes it. I've somewhat recently, I guess, gone into NFL, and by that I mean like maybe like 10 years ago, really, not like the last couple of years. And I just didn't want to for the longest time because I'm like, where's the on ramp? Like where do you get on? And that kind of sucks because once I've gotten into it, it's a ton of fun. And I feel like the same goes for gaming. Like there's probably a lot of people who want to jump in and maybe try something, but I mean, and that exists like across the board, whether you're brand new to gaming or like there's a particular style of game. I think it depends. There's some genres of games where people are like, come on in, like we'll show you the way, but I don't know, man, kind of stinks.
Yeah, there's like a lot of welcoming communities out there, but then there's some that are equally not. I mean, I've been gaming since I was a young buck, and I can't even imagine trying to get into something like the League of Legends or a Dota.
Totally.
That just, I mean, it not just that I'm slow and old and bad at it, but just
You're
just
not
the idea
old,
of like,
man.
I'm older than you, probably older than you are, my man.
Yeah, right.
I bet you I'm old.
How old are you?
What
Can I ask?
30? Yeah, I'm 37.
Oh, well, bang on. We're exactly the same. So maybe we both
There
look
you
younger
go.
than we either feel or actually are.
It's the Asian genes in me. I'm blessed. So yeah.
What's your? Are you mixed? Like, where are your parents
I'm half.
from?
My mom's full-blooded Japanese, and my dad's American. So I'm the product of the Navy in that regard.
Got it. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
When they first met, she couldn't even speak English. So I'm not really quite sure how that one all worked out, and I don't think I want to know.
No. There's some questions better left unanswered. So were you like born and raised in the States then?
I was born in Yokosuka, the naval base, so I guess technically U.S. Soil, but in Japan. And then moved over to the States when I was young. So I spent some time in the East Coast. Yeah. And then moved. I grew up in Seattle, so not too far south of where I think you are. Where you are, somewhere in like
I'm in Alberta. I'm a little further out, but you're right. You would be right.
Okay.
My brother lives in Vancouver, and yeah, he's like 2 hours away from you, actually, or you would be in Seattle. Yeah, which is funny because I've been to Vancouver a lot, and I think I've maybe only been to Seattle once as like a kid, and I have like almost like a dreamlike memory of like maybe driving there. I can't even remember if that was a real thing, of like driving by the Nintendo headquarters over there, but maybe not. I don't know. It's so young, dude. I don't know. I was so young. I don't even remember. Right.
I mean, I haven't been back to Seattle in probably, it's coming up on 2 years here in November. And so it's weird hearing about the place. A lot of my friends back there are saying it's like burning and it's a wreck. And
because you're in Germany now. Where are you now?
I'm in Germany, not too far outside of Frankfurt. So there's a community. It's a city called Wiesbaden. So it's pretty. Frankfurt really is. It's close to Frankfurt Airport. So it's actually really cool. It's different. Not expected. Not expected at all. But yeah, here we are, and just me and the wife and the dog. So
what brought you out there? And you've been there for about 2 years since you left Seattle?
Yeah, it's the job. I work for the government, so I guess so you don't go to sleep. I do commercial and residential real estate for the U.S. government. So it's my territory is the entirety of Europe. So it's really interesting, and the job just happens to be based out of this area in Germany. So
that's wild, dude.
Yeah. It's cool. Yeah, it's cool from the job I like, right? I'm supposed to say that, but what I really like about it is the travel is amazing. Like this past weekend, my wife and I were in Luxembourg. The weekend before, we were in Salzburg, Austria, where they did sound. They filmed Sound of Music, and it's been wild, man. I've been to Athens and Rome, and the places I never thought I'd be in my life, and they're like. I'm not trying to humble brag here, but it's crazy when you live here, you can just say like, what are we going to do next weekend? And it's like, I guess we'll drive over to Amsterdam,
That's exactly how I was going to phrase it. Like, cause these, especially when you're growing up in North America, all these places they're all so far away. And then you're there, like you're in, like that's pretty central, right? Like everything's it's not like you're out in like Portugal or something like that. Like you're kind of like right in the middle of it all. You can just go take a drive or take a train or something like that.
Right. Yep. Everything's very accessible. We're going out to Croatia this coming weekend, and it's like an hour and change flight. We're at the airport longer than we're in the air, and man, that's wild. I can't believe I'm so blessed. Like what a life, what a life. So cool. I still get the game, So that's a cool
I was gonna
thing,
say, I mean that's built-in travel. Like that's got to be like Switch Prime time, right? Like
no doubt about it.
Both you and your wife, kind of thing. Like is she into gaming as well a little bit?
Yeah, she plays a little bit. We actually connected more so. So she's from Portland, Oregon, which is about 3 hours south of Seattle, and so when we met each other at our former employer, and we were both in the intern program together. Anyway, long story short, we got together, and then we weren't going to move to see each other, to live with each other like right away. It's like crazy, it's crazy to do that, back in the day. So we used to connect a lot by we play on Xbox 360, and I bought her what is it, like an arcade or one of those, and she had what do we play? 1 versus 100. We played that a lot.
Yes,
I miss that
bring
so
it back,
much,
man. Oh my gosh, what a good game.
Yeah, where's it at, Phil? But
I love that you guys played that together, because I only my experience with the game was very brief and short, and also just with strangers. I don't think I ever partied up with anybody on that game.
Yeah, we did that all the time at a Castle Crashers. We played a lot of Castle Crashers
that game
back
up
in
again.
the day.
Oh my gosh,
it's so good. It is so good. This is the kind of things we like, and she's really into the more now like the puzzlers. So she's I know she liked one called I think it was like Elo Milo or Ilo Milo on 360. She was really into that, but she likes the Blob. I'm trying to get her into It Takes Two, because we recently got through that. Or was that other Joseph Ferris game, the one where they're in the prison?
No Way Out. Yeah.
Yeah, A Way Out. Yeah, we played through that one, and I had to carry most of like the shooting and stuff, but she's actually pretty good at it, and so I think things with like camera control are kind of tough for her right now.
Right.
But I mean, she gives it a good shot, and she's a good sport about it. But yeah, we the other one we tried was Overcooked, but that was I'd like to stay married. So
I was gonna say that one tests relationships to like their nth degree, man. Yeah, it's funny. My wife and I play that too, and she is such a good planner. And she's just like, we are such a good team. But I also I want to win as well, and I get so stressed out by it. So I only got a couple of Overcooked matches in me before I'm kind of I think maybe we should move on to something else. It's not I don't know. It's not the typical kind of experience people have, I think, with Overcooked. Mine's just it's almost like when you watch a horror movie and you're just tense the whole time. I get that uneasy, it's anxiety is kind of taking over, even though we're working well together and we are winning and everything. I'm just it's still hard. It kind of overwhelms me a little bit.
Yeah, I think we're both. I'm a dummy, and I think I'm helping by being the gamer that's taking charge. Whereas really, I should just probably just shut up and listen to her tell me what to do, and we'll probably be fine. And so it's that constant push and pull there. So
especially on Overcooked, yeah.
Yeah, she's cool. She's more into the crafting stuff now. So
yeah,
I know right now she's upstairs. She's teaching some crafting class thing, streaming it out. So
no way.
She has her own business and stuff, so she's really into that.
Did that kind of carry over from did she start that when you guys were back in America? Talk to me about the move and everything, man, because that's not something that I can't even imagine moving cities. I can't even imagine moving within the same country, within the same province. Going we're gonna go live 6 hours south from here. That's a big deal, dude. And are you there permanently? Are you there on a contract? Tell me about that.
So it was a whirlwind. So I had worked at my previous employer for maybe 11 years or so, and it had become what I would call a toxic workplace. And I'm I'm 30 something, so I still have time. I'm not. I don't need to be. I don't think anyone needs to be mistreated, or belittled by by their management. And that's kind of environment it was. And I was successful at my job and all that, so it wasn't about that. It was just I'm not happy here, and I want to do something else. And we were really thinking about Japan, trying to find a place, to live in Japan and to work in Japan. But eventually we started broadening that net, and I was like, I'm going to apply in Germany and, in Italy. And she's like, yeah, okay, sure, go ahead and do that. And
but where does that come from? That seems like a jump to me. Although maybe you're just used to moving around as when you were younger, you just kind of had a worldly kind of ambition. Cause to me, I would have to really think, or some sort of, something would have to really fall in my lap for me to go, I'm going to move halfway across the world. But you were kind of looking for that.
Yeah, it was kind of if I'm going to make a break of this thing, I'm going to, I don't want to just, I want to make a break of it, and let's try something different while we can.
Yeah.
And we do fairly well when we get into a comfort zone in a place. It's kind of, it's better when we're kind of, I don't know, it sounds weird. We're kind of better when we're put into uncomfortable situations and trying to figure things out together, and that builds our relationship and makes us stronger, and we thrive off of that. So, I think that was part of it, and also just part of, we love to travel. We spent almost all of our free time, outside of, whenever I could, I'd be trying to get out, and we go to New York City or wherever we could in the States. Just I love to travel, and so absorbing cultures and we're food. We like. I'm not a foodie. I'm a peanut butter jelly kind of a guy, but I do like my food. So we love to go and eat at places and all that. So that was part of it. So I had applied at a couple places in Europe, and all of a sudden I got a call from these people in Germany, and they're like, "Hey, we want to interview you." I'm like, "All right, cool." I told my wife, is it all right if I take this interview? And she's like, "Yeah, it's fine." So took the interview, wasn't thinking anything of it, didn't prepare for it or anything. Like, it was stupid. Like, I just went into the interview, just trying to, I was just going to be chill and whatever. And after the call, it was kind of weird. Like, I got a call from one of the people on the interview panel, and he's like talking to me about like what it's like to live there and some of those other things. And he's like, I'm not offering you the job or anything like that. I'm just letting you know, if we do, here's what you're going to have to kind of deal with. And I'm like, okay. Didn't really think much about it. And then like Monday we get a call from them, and they're like, yeah, we're offering you the job, and we're going to send you the letter. And I looked over at my wife. We're on our way to work. It's like 5 or 6 in the morning. We're driving to work, and she's just like, oh, please, we're going to Germany. And I'm like, I can't believe this. And the rest of it's like a whirlwind. You're filling out a lot of paperwork and paring down everything and deciding like what you're going to store and what you're going to take with you, and what's important to you. And then trying to, like, the hardest part is you're trying to figure out like, not who's important, but like how you're going to manage your time with the people that you love, and those kinds of things. And like, oh man, I don't know how I'm going to tell your mom that I'm taking you to Germany. Like, this is not going to be fun.
You need like a whole like communications plan over this whole thing, man.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So yeah, we did that, and that whole process took, I don't know, a good, it's probably 3 or 4 months, and then
but it was never a question. Like, the job came in, and you're like, this is it. Like, that even for something that you didn't really like do homework for, or like really get all that prepared for the interview, they give you the job, and it was just like, I guess I'm taking it. Like, what? Yeah. You don't have to get into, I guess, was it just the adventure of it that kind of, or is it the job itself? Was it the escape? Was it like, talk to me about like the motivation behind the acceptance.
It's not the job itself. I mean, sure. I mean, no kid grows up and says, hey, I'm going to do commercial and residential real estate. Like, no one says that. So
I can't wait to meet that kid. If somebody's kid is out there saying, "Daddy, I can't wait to grow up till whatever," that's amazing.
That's gonna be a winner. So, yeah. So anyway, it was it was really just about, I think, needing a fresh start for me. Yeah. And she was willing to kind of let that be a thing, and she was equal, and she's equal. She's as capable. She had the same exact job as I did, like the same title as I did back there. Like, she's like world class. She's incredibly smart, sharp. Like that. She makes me look like a dummy. So like, she gave up that to come here with me, and then it really wasn't a question. Like, when they offered the job, we didn't really even chat much about it. I just looked over at her, and I was like, "So are we doing this?" And she's like, "Yeah, we're doing this," and just like 100% behind it. And I was like, "Oh, okay." Like, I guess we're doing it.
It's one thing for you to accept, like, this other journey, but like, she's kind of like, I'm not sure exactly how to say it, but like, she's kind of in the passenger seat. Like, she's not exactly like driving the change, is kind of what I'm saying. And right. What stands out to me is like, it's almost like I don't know if it's a test, but more of a sign that you guys were just aligned from day one, that like something like this could come up, and that it's not even a thing. You're like, I guess we're just going to go, like maybe just a sign of what your strong relationship, just going into something like that. When a big life-changing thing can happen, you're on the same page. As, I don't know about you, but that to me is like kind of like a crazy good sign that things are going to be all right for the long haul, as if they weren't already.
I mean, you gotta figure it out or you don't, and
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the way that we approach things. Just like you just either you figure it out or you don't, and so
Hmm.
um, yeah, it's been wild, and it's been a fast 2 years. I'm here for right now for 5, so I'll be here through the end of November, 24, and I'm not sure if I'll extend for another 2. We'll see how things are. I mean,
Sure.
we have aging parents and those kinds of things too. And
Mm.
I have a I have a mom who doesn't necessarily believe too much in coronavirus. So there's those kinds of things I have to worry about back home.
Yeah.
So anyway, without getting into all that, it's one of those. There's some balance there. Like I really love it over here. I can't stress it enough. Like it is so beautiful and so cool here. Like I
That's
didn't.
awesome.
Yeah, when you think of Germany, people don't really understand. Like it is a gorgeous country,
Yeah.
and it's like living in your you say your brother was from lives in
Vancouver.
Vancouver.
Yeah, Vancouver's
Yeah, I
great.
mean it's beautiful like that. Like it is just absolutely stunning here, and we're outdoors people, so we like to go hiking and go through the woods and all that kind of stuff. And it's cool. It's so great here, and then you have access to everywhere else.
Hmm.
So.
Did you
Um,
have kind of a sense, like you mentioned, like there's maybe a misconception about like what Germany is? Is that part of like did you have those same misconceptions and you were surprised when you showed up? You're like, what the
Absolutely.
heck? Grass and mountains and rivers and
Absolutely.
wildlife? What
Yeah.
the heck? Just thought there was a
Yeah. I
wall here.
mean, yeah, you do. It's like you think it's going to be almost like, some Eastern Bloc country, and it's
Right.
not like that. This isn't
Right.
Russia. This is,
Right.
this is a beautiful place, and you hear a lot of things about the people and stuff too. And I mean, this isn't the States. Like they're German people are actually really friendly, and it's not.
Hmm.
They're friendly in a different way. They're very much no nonsense. So you don't back in the States, or I don't know, like about in Canada, but you kind of shoot the breeze at people, and you're asking about the weather, like those kinds of things. You're making small talk, and they don't really do that here as much. They don't
Oh, my kind of
understand that
country.
kind of
Holy cow.
concept.
Yeah, I love
Yeah,
it.
so they're kind of to business, and they take things
Hmm.
very seriously. So verbal is as good as a contract here. So if
Yeah.
you tell someone, like if you say to someone, you can come visit at any time, you better mean that,
Yeah, because they're
because
going to
you will
show
get a
up.
knock on your door, and they will come. They will come to
Hmm.
your house, right? So it is different from that, where but they're not like mean or serious or anything like that. They are very rule oriented as far as like I've seen, and this is
Hmm.
me as an American living in Germany saying like this is how I view these people. So if there are real Germans out there, I hope I'm not really offending anyone. But like
Well,
my perspective is that
it
this is
aligns.
how it is,
It align.
right?
I had a friend who did very similar to you, did a work kind of tour in Germany and came back and said very very similar things about like to be on time is late, to be early is on time, like that kind of thing.
Mm.
And it's what
Yep.
strikes me, and maybe to your point that you're kind of running into is like it seems strange to describe a culture with like a bit of a broad brush, but there is something
Mm.
also to be said about like now you're in a country with like there's Germans there, like primarily
Mm.
Germans versus the melting pot that is, America or Canada, where we have all these different kind like mixed cultures. I don't know if that's necessary. Not to say that there's, not any people from outside of Germany living in Germany. You're obviously an example. But it's maybe just to a different degree, right? Like where people are
Sure.
born and raised and like generations after generation. Like there's old history in a country like Germany,
Mm.
and really all of Europe, I would imagine. So maybe it's still a little bit safe to kind of describe the culture in that way, just because of those factors, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, maybe so. Yeah, and you're right. It is an old country, an old history here. We joke around about it a lot, but we've been to so many castles and like old
Yeah,
cathedrals and stuff, and it's just like they're like, oh, another European castle. Like it kind of feels
sure.
like that after a while,
Hmm.
And but yeah, culturally, like they're a neat culture, and they do things. I think when I think about the States, it's not. There's things I miss about the States, but they're like really small, dumb things. Like you you don't like. There's simple things like when you go to the grocery store here, they don't bag your stuff. They literally throw your groceries down to the end, and you're scrambling to get your stuff into a bag as fast as possible, and then
Hmm.
get it into a cart and get it out of the way. Like that's kind of how it is here. Like the way that they recycle, the way that they the way that they eat, the way that stores are open.
Why is that the way they do it at the grocery store? What's with that?
I don't have any idea. Just the way it is, like
just to
in
help
most
yourself
of Europe,
get
too.
it done.
Yeah, they have a checker, and they will basically just like take your stuff and just chuck it down to the end, and you get out of the way.
Interesting.
So it is, it's pretty wild, and so the stores aren't like open on. There's like a lot of Sunday laws about like when they're open. So like some of those conveniences, like where I'm used to being able to go to I don't know, like a Kroger or something. Or a Fred Meyer or whatever they want to call them at 11 o'clock at night. If I want to get a donut, like you don't do that here. The bakery is open from 5 to noon, and that's it.
Yeah,
and you better get in there, or you're not going to have food. Like they close down on the holidays, and if you're not prepared, like you're not getting food unless you want to eat at a gas station.
Was it ever that way for you? Because we're the same age, and I have memories of that being a thing. Like here in Canada, at least in my part of Canada, like I remember Sundays being like, it's probably not, whatever you want to go, it's probably not open. And if it is, it's going to be like from 1 until 5 in the afternoon kind of thing. Like the hours were so short. And then I don't know if it's a capitalistic type of mentality where like, well, if we're open, we can make money, like just be open. That kind of took over, right. I feel, but I definitely remember that being a time where holidays, not a chance. Sundays, definitely not. Like those types of things were part of the lifestyle, and that seems to just persisted. And at least the part of Germany that you're in, is that countrywide kind of thing?
Yeah, it's countrywide, and it's really a lot of it is I would say like continent-wide. If it's a European thing, it's very much like common everywhere we go here to have very like short hours of operation.
Mm-hmm. And just culturally right, enforced, like is that law? Like is that can it even be law across the continent?
I think there are laws in like every. Germany's a lot like the States in the way where there are actual states within Germany. Like I didn't know that coming here, and so like
makes sense.
I live in Hessen, and they can vary, but like typically they're very common. So like where the Rhineland-Pfalz is around here too, and they're going to have like the same laws as Hessen, etc. And even when we went over to Austria, like they have kind of similar closure times, and Luxembourg's the same way. I mean, they all operate fairly similarly, so you're not super surprised when you go somewhere and you're like, oh, they're closed on Sundays. It's just kind of how it is.
It's amazing because that sort of thing, I feel like, just dictates so much of like your pace, your day to day, like your family time, like what you choose to do, like what is open and when it's open. It sounds like almost like a trivial thing, like who cares? But suddenly your Sundays are just totally different if you can't be shopping or if you can't be doing something else. Like it's right. Dedicated for another reason. And I feel like there's probably some religious sort of like centrals to that. But for whatever reason,
maybe so,
it definitely plays out in a different way. Because I remember life changing after things started to open up on Sundays. Like we got busier. You're just kind of around the clock. Yeah. So there's something. I don't know. Is that part of maybe your enjoyment of Germany? Is it a painful custom or like kind of adjustment to that lifestyle, or is that kind of I like the pace here?
I do like the pace. Like it's a little bit slower, and it's more regimented in terms of like when you have to be somewhere. But like that does force, that forces some downtime and I'm pretty schedule oriented as well. So like it forces you to kind of get done with your business, and then the rest of the time is like I'm gonna I have to relax. I have to chill, or I need to spend this time doing something at the house, like cleaning at the house or whatever wherever the case may be. So I enjoy the pace. It is definitely slower. It's
makes you just reflect on life, doesn't it? I don't know if that's part of like just the move, but like, and the just there's so many, I talk about it in this show quite a lot. Like I just keep learning that there's so many different like ways to go about life. And if you move, like you've literally kind of are experiencing that other way midway through your own life. I think people talk about why they enjoy traveling. I feel like that's one of the biggest things to me is the discovery of, maybe some people call it like, I like discovering culture. I think the thing I find most fascinating is when people show me a different way of going about their, whatever you call it, 100 years on this planet, whatever the number is, 80 years for some people, far less, unfortunately. But I always find that super fascinating. Some people become commercial real estate for the U.S. government. Like that's just another path, man. I think that's awesome.
Right. Right. And it's funny, like it feels like everything's so sped up nowadays. And, we have so much access to things and content and entertainment, and there's just so much of it. And like trying to find ways in normal life to slow down is nice. I mean, I hear you guys on your podcast talking about like, these Game Pass games and all this. And, I'm looking at my list and I'm like, I'm having FOMO just trying to get the Game Pass games, and that's not even looking at the the big things that are coming out that aren't on it, like the Far Cries and stuff. I'm like, well, do I really want to play this? And this is like, it's like right now, this month has been like the first month where I've looked at everything that's coming out, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I no, man, no. It's
like a landslide, like this avalanche.
Yeah.
Which is funny too, because I feel like to describe them as an avalanche or landslide, sometimes when you're far enough away from an avalanche, you're like, how does nobody like just run away from that thing? Like it looks like it's kind of moving slow. It doesn't look like all that dangerous. But then like you're in it and you're just, you can't get out, man. You're just completely like smothered by it. I was playing Far Cry last night until I think 1:30 or 2 in the morning, just like getting hours into this thing. And you're right. Like there's actually too much, and it's across all things. It's games, it's movies, it's TV. One thing that yesterday I took the kids out to the library and the comic store, and that just like the number of pages that I just looked at, like paper and books and everything. I'm like, oh man, I need more lives, like there's just so much out there. And I would love to, I saw somebody at the library just like kicking back, just reading a book, and they looked so sublime. They just looked like they were in their perfect space. And I was so happy for them, but also so jealous, man. I would love to just sit, and it's not to avoid kids or anything. It's just, there's so many things in life to enjoy, which it can be damning, but it can also be very empowering and very positive too, that like wherever you turn, there's something awesome happening, you know? Yeah.
It is hard. It's a real hard balance, because we're super blessed. Just looking at like being gamers. I mean, we're super blessed in the amount of things, like the amount of high quality things that we have to do. But there was a time when I found myself running through things, trying to get to the next thing, and it's right. And it's like, what am I doing here? When I was a kid, I used to go down to the store and I'd buy a game based on the way that the box looked, and that was like once every 6 months,
Yeah, man.
And if that game sucked, you're pretending that you liked it. So
you're finding all the goodness in it. You're like, I like this part. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, graphics are good, or I don't even like. It's funny, as my kids are growing up, I'd love for them to kind of like pick out why they like things. They're not quite there. They just enjoy things. But do you remember like you mentioned picking up a game? Like, do you remember the first game you picked up with your own money?
Well, I don't remember the first one I picked up. I remember though, like one of the worst ones I picked up was
that's how the brain works. Regret.
There was I can give you a good one too. So I'll start with a bad one. There was a fighting game for N64, and I can't remember what it was called. I want to say like Art of Destiny or something like that, but it had like a cow in it, and I don't know why I bought that game. I bought that game. I brought that home, and I was so disappointed. I couldn't even. It was so bad. But then I like spent like the next month playing it, because that was like all the money that I had to get something, and it was bad. But
Fighter's Destiny, was it called Fighter's Destiny?
Fighter's Destiny. That's it. Yeah.
So I looked up Art of Destiny, and the first thing that came up was Destiny Streams. Oh man, this looks like an N64 game. I'm just popping this up here. Yeah. Oh man,
it's terrible.
Ocean. It's by the developer was Ocean. Oh man, that brings me back. Holy crap.
Can you see the cow though? That's the question.
So I use Bing because I get Microsoft points, but like Bing is not very good, man. I see a clown. It looks like a dude, kind of like, it almost looks like an N64 version of like Virtua Fighter, and it looks like there's some sort of like circus that this dude is at. I'm not seeing a cow just yet, but I do believe. Oh my gosh, man, fighting games were just everything though back then, dude. Like that was. Yep. They were as popular then as I think. It's hard to remember because fighting games are very niche now, but they're like a battle royale at this point. Like you need to have a fighting game, at least in the Super Nintendo days. Maybe by 64 they were kind of like trailing off a bit, But they were the arcade experience brought home, and that was a big deal. And so, like, what was it about? Was it the artwork on the box? Like, what did you buy it for?
I think it was. I think I looked at the back of the box. I'm like, this looks pretty cool. And,
yeah, man. It's like
based
on
what,
you know?
I was thinking, yeah. But then,
man.
I remember, but then the one winner, I remember I picked up. I went to the store and I picked up Suikoden 2.
Nice.
On the fly one time, and I had no idea what that was either. And that turned out to be
Sega,
like,
though? Was that? Did you have Sega as well?
Or
was that
PlayStation 1 game?
Oh, okay. It shows what I know.
So yeah, it ends up, that's probably like one of my favorite games of all time. Like I love that game. It is so good. So you know, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose.
Sometimes you randomly pick Fighter's Destiny, sometimes you randomly pick Suikoden 2. Was that like this again continues? I don't know exactly what your GPA or IQ is or anything, but I get the sense that you're a smart guy, and I keep linking like somebody who plays an RPG game as a youngster, and then they grow up and they get smart enough to be hired on a whim to go move to Germany. Like this is all a theme.
Well, hey, you know, you said it right. I have my moments.
Well, I want my kids playing RPGs. That's a huge push for Pokemon at this point, because it's like baby's first RPG. Yeah.
That's
I think there's lots to it.
Start with.
I think most parents look over it, to be honest with you. Like just how much reading and comprehension and systems and all the things that go into it. Like you're probably not thinking about all that stuff when you're just playing Suikoden, but I don't know. Do you remember walking through it and going like, did you even know like what kind of game you were getting into? Like,
I knew it was an RPG of some sort. I mean, I was really into like the Chrono Triggers. I mean, I grew up playing those, and it kind of looked like it, right? It wasn't trying to do the PlayStation 1 3D graphic thing. It looked like an old game, and I was like, well, I liked these old games when I was, you know, slightly younger than this. So maybe it'll be like that, and it really is. It's like a love letter to those games in a lot of ways. And I still think he has like one of the best villains ever. It's an incredible game. I don't know if you ever played it. I'm sure, Ryan's probably played it.
Ryan's probably played it. Yeah. Jared Petty used to go on about it on a bunch of IGN podcasts, Game Scoop and Beyond, whenever he was on there. And I have it on my Vita. I think I've got Suikoden 1 and 2 on my Vita. And I don't know why I thought that was, I don't know why I thought they came over from Sega, but I must be thinking of something else. But yeah, I've played like maybe the first hour, and same thing with like Chrono Trigger. I played maybe like the first 5 hours of Chrono Trigger. I played a ton of times, like an embarrassing number of like, okay, I get it. Like the fair and the balloons and the, oh my gosh. Yep. So my brother loves those games, and I feel like they're on a bucket list, you know, like, I don't know if you have something like that where there's like games you haven't gotten to that like maybe at some point it can both be, you know, a nice, wonderful thing to do and explore, but also like that's the startings of an endless backlog that can cause anxiety and not so much joy.
I mean, I love Legend of Zelda, right? So, you know, it's probably my favorite gaming series, but like I've never played through Zelda 1 or Zelda 2.
Skip Zelda 2. Don't let Ryan tell you, right? It's Ryan's favorite one.
I heard it's hardcore, so yeah, I don't know.
It's
about
different.
All that.
It's but you know what I will say about it though, and there's a lot of this in the NES days, especially where like the sequel just wasn't a bigger version of the second. Sometimes they just did something totally different, and I feel like that was the case with Mario 2 for a variety of reasons that it's well documented at this point, and certainly with Zelda 2, which I don't know why. I'd love to know if you know anything about that. Like, why was Zelda 2 the way Zelda 2 is? Like, the hell were they doing? Like,
like, it looks different. It looks like it plays different. I've heard it's incredibly hard. So I don't know. Like that one, and then also like I haven't played through. Started it probably 3 or 4 times, but what is it? Majora's Mask. Like I've never actually played through the whole game, and I think part of it is that time loop stresses me out. There's something about that really stresses me out. It's also why like I don't really like a game like Outer Wilds. You know, everyone sings its praises, but that stresses me out. There's something about that where it's like, oh no, the time's gonna run out, and you know, I don't have any control over that, and so I don't like it. But someday, those are bucket list games. Those are those are things I probably should do. At least Zelda 1, I should probably get through it. So
I will say I've revisited Zelda 1, and I'm a fan. You know, I'd name my kid Lincoln because Link and everything. You don't need to. Yeah, I would say you don't need to go back to Zelda 1. I'm going to be totally honest with you. Like, I don't think that's
save myself time.
Well, the thing is, like, game design has changed so much, and the thing I keep coming back to with the first Zelda game is like, you shouldn't have to. You really have. You need a guide. You need to like bomb a very specific spot of the map to actually progress, not just to find a secret, not just to find like a nice to have. Like, that's the way. It's like by today's standards, like if somebody were to release a game like that today, and it's like, you can't move forward unless you find like the secret, which back then they were monetizing it as well, which is so Nintendo to do. You find it in like a strategy guide, which was published in Nintendo Power, or you call the line or whatever. Like, or you just play long enough until you try literally everything. And that, I don't know. Like, I that's not for me. I'm just gonna say that is the music and the exploration and everything. I get those in other ways at this stage. I don't think that I would recommend first Zelda game. Actually.
Well, like we were saying, it's like we're not in a period where there's not like good games to play, or we're in some like release lull here. This is crazy. This is crazy time. So yeah, I'm just thinking about some of the things I haven't got to that I really want to play, like a Deathloop or like that new Life is Strange, and I'm like I don't know when I'm going to have time to do that, and then there's all the flighting with Halo, and I'm like I hardly have time to do any of that, and so
But you're prioritizing other things too. Like, that's the thing. It's not like kids are around, but you're putting work is going to take up X number of hours, just whatever it is. But then also, like, you're exploring Europe. You're finding out, like, you're outside. I know you're into fitness and everything. You're keeping good care of yourself. Like, I have a huge amount of admiration for that. That like you could put all that to the side and probably dump a lot more hours into all these things. But like, you're a pretty well-rounded dude, man. Like, you've kind of got a lot going on. So it's always the struggle. Yeah.
Variety is the spice of life, right? I mean, you try to. I try to have like a lot of different things that have going on, but like I do run into that problem a lot of times where, like you're saying, you go to the bookstore and you see somebody reading a book and just relaxing, and I try to always have a book running, and even then it's like, well, how do I find time to get through this book?
Yeah,
that I really like this book. How do I find time to read this book or watch this show or whatever, and it becomes a lot. But yeah, I mean, I try to be balanced with those kinds of things. I don't want to be like, one thing defined like the way that I can have fun, or enjoy life. Cause that's, I don't know, like then if the avenue gets shut off, you're kind of screwed, right? Like you're hosed.
That one hits a little close to home, my friend. That one, it's like how, and after podcasting for so long, like those thoughts go through my mind a little bit. Like, what if this were to all stop? Like, then what? Like, who am I? What am I? Like, that is a big, big thing. So there can be like this allure, and I often encourage people to get into content creation, but that is definitely a thing that it can start to take over, and like the habit and the routine and sort of obligations that kind of come along with it. It can become quite a bit bigger. So I give a huge kudos to you. The variety is the spice of life, and just kind of keeps you on your toes. But at the same time, there's so many things. So how do you really dive into any of it? It's like you're constantly kind of multitasking. So,
I mean, I was going to ask you about that too. Like, so, I mean, how do you, is there a point to you where you're, I don't know how to put this, do you look at your engagement numbers with things like your podcast or with YouTube and you say like, I'm getting X amount of views or I'm getting X amount of listens, and is there a point to you where you're like, this doesn't feel like it's worth it, or I mean, are you always feeling fulfilled by that? Are you doing it for yourself, or are you doing it for others? Like, I'm really curious, like how does it work as a content creator? Because I'm kind of I'm coming into this, chatting with you, I'm probably like one of the only people you've ever talked to on this that's not, I don't do content creation. I'm just a dude. Like I'm some
I love.
Joe Blow.
I need more of this, actually. I really, really do. And I love this. This was the original intent of the show, was actually to give people who don't have a podcast like a chance to be part of one. Because I always felt like, going back in the early days of sending in my question, and if somebody read it, I'm like, oh my God, that's my moment. Like I hear myself on a podcast through my question, and there's a bit of that rush. So I always wanted to have that for other people. But then I found out that everybody and their dog has a podcast, and that's kind of how the things kind of turned out. In terms of like the numbers and everything, there was maybe like a brief point in time where I did, but somehow like very early on, I just knew that would lead to a lot of dissatisfaction. And I don't like, people confirm this to me in conversations down the road, but somehow I knew that like, if I looked at numbers and I was like, oh, I only got, 5 views, and I would be disappointed. But then if I were to grow and get to 50, I should be stoked about that. But then I'm getting, 50 less than the other dude who's getting 100 views over there. And then if I got to 100 views, there's somebody else getting 1,000, and so on and so forth. And for whatever reason, it's just like, it was clear to me that chasing game was just always going to be dissatisfying. And as it has turned out, like the ceiling is way higher than I ever would have imagined. Like as time has gone on, especially because I've been at this for about 6 years, I didn't know about like the gigantic. I knew about IGN and that's it, but I didn't really understand like that it was a possibility for somebody like me or you to become, Maximilian Dude or somebody else who like streams to, or Mr. Beast or Ninja. I didn't know about any of these normal dudes who become billionaires doing any of this stuff. So if I was always chasing something, then that never would have been good. You get a little bit of it, like it has kind of like creeped in every once in a while where I'm like, ooh, I should be getting this or that or whatever. But in the end, no, I don't really look at the numbers because I think if I did, especially on YouTube, I would have quit a long time ago. Like we get almost relatively speaking, we get almost nothing on YouTube. We're stoked when people leave comments and all those kind of things. Like that's great. For me, it's this, like the conversation that we get to have, that this, it creates like an excuse or a pathway, just like a common understanding that you and I are going to sit down, we're going to just have a chat, and it's not going to be how's the weather or the local sports team. It's going to be like, what's life like, man? And what that has done is created a space for people to come on into a Discord and to want to be on the show. Like and for me to play games and then have a schedule time to hang out with my friends. Like those are all the reasons. I could honestly go on for probably about 20 to 50 reasons why I do it and continue to do it. And not one of them is a number or a piece of engagement or anything like that. Cause all of that is so fulfilling. But it's hard because so many people will talk about numbers, and it seems like it's so measurable and so upfront. It's like YouTube video, number of views. Like it's a huge reason why I didn't even want to go on YouTube for a long time. Because I actually like in podcast line the way that the system that we post to like doesn't really give real numbers. Like I don't really know what these numbers mean. So it's like, okay, give me some magical nonsense that like I don't really want to know that there was exactly 73 people who listened to this episode. Like I actually doesn't matter because we got a couple of people who say they enjoyed it, and that's the best part.
That's a good way to look at it. Yeah, I mean that keeps you sane too, right? It makes things worthwhile. So, I envy kind of people like you who are able to create things. And I mean, you're a creator and a creative, I guess, in a different way than like some kind of an artist, like a painter, right? Like you're creating a content, you're creating a show, and my brain doesn't operate like that. My wife's very much a creator too. She understands like how to make things look or design or whatever. And I look at people like you and her, and it's just like, how do you guys have brains to do this? I'm much more like the blunt instrument, right? So I'm the guy that's like, I'm the guy that you bring on and is there for like that you chat with, not the person that comes up with the topics to chat about, right? And so like I don't like I'm like envious of your brains, like the way that they work. Like it is so cool to watch it and to like see it's like, wow, this is like I don't understand how they work.
See, I feel like you and I are similar in a lot of ways actually. I feel like I wouldn't have described myself as a creative prior to this, and and you're right, like I am in a different way, and some of it's just having started it. Like, I feel like you were just like the way that you just described it is a lot of what I would describe of myself too. The only difference is like, I just started podcasting. Like, and I feel like if you were very natural at this as well. Like you're very like natural just to talk to. I feel like if you were just to like, set a weekly date, you would suddenly like find yourself like as a creative. I think it's just a matter of not what you're wired for, but more of like what you do. More than anything. So, well, I'm curious, like if you wouldn't call yourself a creative, like how would you describe yourself and like your brain, as you put it?
I know I'm very, I don't know, like I said, I'm more of a blunt instrument, I guess. I'm just kind of like, I look at processes and stuff, and it's just like, this is kind of how this needs to work, or like, this is like the factual way that things are, or something to that effect. And it's like, that's how my brain will work through it. Right. Yeah. So, I mean, this is very like natural to me, like chatting with you. I have never met you before, but this is like normal. Like this is
totally.
And a lot of that comes from, the kind of work I do too. You know, it's a lot of handshaking and
same here
and stuff, but right. So it's just, you know, this is normal. I'm not embarrassed of who I am, but it's more like, yeah, I like trying to think about like how things might work together, or, you know, like how to come up with something new is like, that's tough. Like even you guys with your, you know, you have a whole show at Xbox Drive that's themed around driving a car around and going to McDonald's, and it's like, you know, it's so silly, right? But it works somehow, and it's endearing in some way, you know. And it's like, how do you even think of an idea like that? My brain would never go there. My mind would be like, well, we're going to talk about news, and then we're going to talk about like what I'm playing, and then we're going to move on with life. And so it's, you know, it's
But you're
cool
but you optimize things, and this is the thing. Like even the way you describe your process of going about processes is like, dude, like I feel like I've talked about that on the show before. Like I think people listening who've been listening for a while, like they know, they're like, oh yeah, this is very similar. I will overthink things to the nth degree. The one thing I would say about podcasting is it's sort of like it forces the issue every once in a while, where like somebody's going to talk and I'm going to hand it over to you, and you're like, you don't know what you're going to say. Like you didn't have a plan. You didn't have like, you don't know what you're going to talk about necessarily. And I feel like podcasting does that. The optimizing it of the experience is actually more about how I would even describe how I approach the creativity of it, more than I'm starting with a blank canvas. Like I feel like I'm much more of like an iterative type of person, where I will start with something and it's going to be terrible. It's going to be awful, but at least I'm starting it, and I will, you know, benchmark, measure, evaluate, like, you know, improve those types of things. That's my approach to it. And I feel like it would be very similar for you as well. I don't know why. You just get the sense that, yeah, there's just again, like kind of like what we were talking about before. There's just different ways about going about it. The Xbox Drive wasn't the start, like not even close. It was, we were doing a whole bunch of other things. It came out of doing this show and meeting a whole bunch of people. It was iterative. Everything I've done has been iterative. So I think that's, it's just a matter of, you and I think would approach a similar situation very similarly in terms of where do we even get started, you know? Right. So that's about community.
And I will admit, like, it felt like a little bit of, I don't know if you call it imposter syndrome. I'm an old dude and out of the terminology. So like, I don't have anyone explain to me. So like, I looked at some of like, you know, you look at some of the people and you're listening through your episode log of even with the GamerCast, and I'm like, oh, you know, he's had Cognito on the show. He's had, you know, Ed from Married to the Games. And these are people I've listened to for years. And like, wow, like that's crazy to think like, you know, I'm just some normal guy, but then you get to thinking it, and like we're all just normal people,
just people, man.
And, right. So you're trying to get out of my own head about it, you know. It's
yeah,
like,
good for you. I'm glad you did. I'm glad you reached out too. And all of those things are, you know, I tend to, and I'll say it even right now, like I tend to enjoy these types of conversations more than like the big get kind of thing. You know, and that's been a point in time in this show is like, when am I going to get a Greg Miller or so and so? And it's like those conversations tend to be, you know, you're just lucky to have that hour of that person's time, and then they're going to go off and do something else. And what I found is like, I've stayed in touch with so many people just like you. It's like, this is way better than like, oh, I don't even know. Like I got Jeff Keighley. That'd be super cool. Yeah. But like, he's not going to like answer my calls afterwards. Like he's not going to be like messaging me back ever, you know, like it's very rare. And I've been lucky enough to brush up against some wonderful people, but like, we don't stay in touch, and that's not that actually feels very odd to me when that does. And actually I had taken I thought the show was done. But I had, cause I had actually called it that I had a finale of the show. I brought it back afterwards. And part of the reason that I had called it quits at one point was I felt like I was having people on the show just to have them on. And I'm like, that wasn't satisfying to me at all. So I kind of walked away from it before I kind of, now we're here. So.
Well, and a lot of it for me came from, you know, just reaching out and chatting with you and stuff. It's a desire to find like a positive community and group of people that, you know, that we're not constantly shouting and arguing about, about what color, box that we have,
Mm-hmm.
or,
Lines of resolution,
we're
man.
right. We're celebrating something that we all love together,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's gaming or, whatever. And it's been, as I've moved over here, it's harder to find that, because I'm 37 and my friends are all, getting, they all have families with kids, and
Right.
we don't have time to game with each other really like we used to. And so like
Mm-hmm.
trying to find a group of, getting on the forums nowadays is like, it is some nightmare fuel a lot of times, where
Mm-hmm.
people are just, I don't know, like, how people can treat each other like that. And so trying to find, that positive community. And, I'm really like glad to have kind of found that, like, the Discord that you guys are in is great, and everyone there's super friendly. And it's like, it's not just about gaming, but they have, pictures of people's lives and fitness and all sorts of things. And it's just like really like a cool, diverse thing of very like nice people. And man, to find something like that is very hard in a very large internet now.
Well,
So we're all shouting.
I'm really glad to hear all of that. And while it's sort of like new, I'd love to, you can do this offline too. Like send me some notes. Cause I feel like even for you, like jumping in, like it became, I'm reminded of what it's like to like walk into a room full of people. Everybody knows each other and it's like, hi, like that's something that I need to be, I feel like a little bit more like acutely aware of, that that's still a thing for anybody, like, walking in. And it's, you'll have the people like, I'm here, like, welcome me. And nobody knows who this person is, but they don't care. Like there's like happy to be there, but that's not the experience for everybody. So I'm curious to your thoughts on what communities can do to be more inviting and welcoming. Like I'm glad to hear that it has been a positive experience, but I still don't even know if it was like the doors are open, Delroy, like come on in. Like I don't know if we have that either. Like there's always, this is the improvement, like the iteration. I feel like there's always improvement that we can do on that front, so that it's abundantly clear that if you love gaming and you're looking for a place to hang out and find cool people, like that's this. So I don't know exactly what that is, but that's where my
Right.
mindset is anyway.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of hard to define, like, without thinking about it some, but yeah, it's just, it's kind of like, feels like going into a place and not having to worry about, what you might be into that,
Right.
into that day, or like how you're feeling that day. It's kind of one of those things where you're just going somewhere and you're amongst a group of kind of people that are similar
Yeah.
from different walks of life. Like we're similar in one, I guess in one like thing that we're enjoying together, or set of things that we enjoy together, but we're all from different walks of life. So we all respect that, I
Yeah,
think that's
man.
kind of, that's a really cool thing, and something that, you don't find and you don't want to let go of when you do find it. Right.
No, it
So,
definitely, and that to your question before, like that is what keeps a lot of it going for sure. What about, talk to me about, and maybe we'll close somewhere close to this. Like I am lucky to have the podcast like that. I had an experience. What was I doing? I think I was playing Tales of Arise recently, and I was like, I have got to talk to somebody about this game. And I finished it, and I went upstairs, and my wife was there, and like, I got like maybe a sentence or two into it, and she's like, I'm like, she just does not want to hear about, like, it's just, and she's into games too, but like, it just,
yeah,
I just would have caught anybody off guard. Like it might as well have been like
yeah.
a stranger off the side of the street. Like, oh, I got to tell you about like this thing and all this stuff happened, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I got that urge like I haven't had in a long time, but I'm curious for you if that's a thing that, you play a game and you just like want to talk to somebody about it, and how do you deal with that without a
Oh yeah, for
podcast?
sure, for sure. I was gonna say, you were just mentioning Tails. I was playing it right before we got on this call.
Yes.
When you messaged me, I was in the middle of a battle. I'm like, I gotta pause and get on this thing. So,
Respect, man.
Like if
You
you
should
want
have
to, if you
told
want to
me.
chat,
You should have told me,
if
like,
you
hey,
want to
sorry,
chat
man, I'll
that.
be a couple minutes. I'm just playing Tails. I've been like, understood. I get it, man.
Yeah, if you want to talk Tails, holler at your boy. I love to chat with that.
Oh, I love
It's
it.
been pretty cool. So,
Well, you
but
can
yeah,
tell
I
me
mean,
anything because you can't spoil anything, so you can talk like whatever's happening. I want to relive. Like I'm actually looking for people who've played it. Like tell me where you're at, man. Not here, but because we don't want to spoil it for others.
yeah,
But
no, no,
but
no,
yeah,
no doubt. So, but yeah, I find myself apologizing to my wife a lot, because I'll get to a point, I'm like, oh my gosh, there was this, like, whatever happened here, and
hmm
this is why I really like, or I'll be, I'll play, Dark Souls or something, and I'll beat a boss, and like I'm like, so jazzed
you don't
up. It's like,
understand.
okay,
Like
yeah, I'm like, oh, look, I beat the Tower Knight finally, and I'm like, she's like, oh, okay, like, yeah, she's like, cool,
It's
I'm
like
like,
that gift, just like,
look,
okay.
I'm sorry, yeah, I'm sorry, so, but it's funny, like, yeah, I find that too, like, none of my friends are as into it anymore, they're all kind of, I don't know, all my friends game, but more, they're busy doing other things, and we're 9 hours apart, so
Yeah.
I'm not going to be like, hey bud, I really got to talk about Bloodborne here, so we need to talk about that secret coin box in Mario 2-1. I'm not going to do that anymore. So it is hard, and so you want to get on the forums and talk to people, or you want to get onto Discord and talk to people, but you also have to be really cognizant about spoiling. So that's really tough, man. I don't know where I go to. I guess I owe a lot to my wife for just like putting up the ear, like, yeah, cool, and by the same token, she chats to me a lot about her. She watches like she likes TV, like, and so I'll listen to her talk about shows and about her crafting projects, and I don't have a clue on how some of that works, but she'll like walk me through like how she like designed and cut out a sign, and I'm thinking in my head like, I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like I'm like mechanically understand what you're saying, kind of, but what you're describing to me, like my brain doesn't go like that. But then it kind of gives me sympathy for what she must be dealing with as well. And I'm like, look, all right, in Final Fantasy VII, like, you don't understand why this was so important that they did this. So it's just like you're a clown. So
yeah. You're giving me kind of an idea here, man, about like this. I've always wanted to do some sort of like book club, and the spoiler cast Ryan and I did for the Tales of Arise was kind of as close to that as it kind of gets. But it's like, why does it have to be either Ryan or I or Kato or whoever it is, like in the sort of content creation world? I think it would be so cool. I don't know exactly how this actually happens, but I think it would be so cool if like you could put it out there. It's almost like a looking for group, but for like book club. Like, I'm playing this game. Yeah. I think I'm going to have it done by such and such a time. If anybody wants to jump on like a Discord call or a Skype, or like jump in the voice chat, we can have like little channels there or something for people to just jump in and just like talk to each other. If you want to record it, we could put it up on YouTube. That would be cool as like just an audio only thing. And I think Ryan and I could help facilitate that. But I think that would be really interesting. Speaking about how do we more openly demonstrate, like, the doors are open, come in and chat about a thing. There's a group of people over here and they're all talking about like Life is Strange, like, go crazy, or set something up for yourselves to like have that book club, that evening where everybody just jumps on with a drink or whatever it is, and you're just going to geek out over the game. I think that, I feel like that's me, that's just what everybody wants. That's what I want, especially as all these games are coming out right now. And that's why I podcast.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of do something like that with your Halo. I think you're doing it on Saturdays now, but you guys maybe play Sundays Halo together. I mean, it's no kidding, right? It's something like that, right? But maybe having something like, well, you get to X chapter in whatever the game is, or you play through the first chapter of or what is it? I guess part of episode of Life is Strange, and then we chat about it that day, or we all get in the Discord and like talk about what worked and what didn't. Like, those are really cool things, because then you're spending more time engaging with that thing and not moving on, and really starting to appreciate it, but with other people. So like, yeah, that's cool. That's a great idea. Yeah, for sure.
Part of me wonders too, because I'd love to even just to get the ball rolling. I know sometimes it can be really hard for something that doesn't exist to will it into existence. It's got to be more than just a spreadsheet or a Word document. As I've been poked fun at for that every once in a while. I'm like, I got an idea, and they're like, okay, start your spreadsheet. It's like, okay, well, I've got obviously need to do something a little bit more. I'd love to maybe explore if this is. I'm kind of putting it out into the universe. If there is a game that people are playing, I'd love for people to like reach out to me or you if you want to jump in on this too and go. If it's a game that I haven't played, but it would be open to being spoiled, then I would, be okay with that, depending on the game, of course. But just to, in the sake of facilitating a thing. And then once in a while, like, I'd love to like turn that over to, the community just to
Right.
organize and discover games and discover each other. I think that would be so cool, man. Holy crap.
Yeah,
Look
I
at
think it's a great idea. I think it's a
We
great
did
idea.
it.
Yeah,
We made
there we
something.
go. Look at us creating.
Look at us. Look at this guy. We totally just made something. And meanwhile, producer Ryan's on the other end of this listening going like, what are you doing? There is enough stuff. But
We have too many shows. Yeah.
Well, it's not even a show. That's the best part about it. Now I'm arguing with Ryan via podcast. This is next level kind of meta here.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Yeah, but I'm always curious about that because Marcus O'Neill is a good friend of mine, and him and I were chatting about that recently. Where it's like, what do you do when you don't have you're just? It's not like you and I are having different experiences playing the games in terms of being vested into it or anything. So
Right.
you want to, if it's anything like me, the experience I'm having, I'm like, I want to talk about this, dude. I want to share this, and that's the best part about gaming, I feel.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Very cool,
dude. Do you want people to find you on the internet as we close out here? Do you want to share Twitter or anything like that, or you're in the Discord now too?
Yeah, just probably in the Discord. I'm not really I don't really tweet too much and stuff. So I mean, I'm kind of one of those lurkers where I'm just kind of like reading and using it as more of like a news feed. So like, I mean, if people are in the Discord and want to give me a holler or something, that's cool. But otherwise, I'm pretty low key, and some of it's kind of where I'm at right now. So
all good, man.
Yeah.
Well, I'll keep it to Delroy. I won't dox you or anything like that.
That's
so
cool, man.
I really, really appreciate you. I know we've been trying to line this up for months, and it's a totally different season now at this point. But time zones be damned. I've got the holiday today. I've got we're gonna be eating turkey a little bit later. But this has been just one of those classic examples of sweet hangs with a stranger from the internet. I didn't know you from was the same from Paul? I don't know. Didn't know you at all.
I don't know. Someone,
from Adam?
Right?
Yeah. Sounds like some
there you go.
biblical name. I just had a ton of fun just chatting with you, man. Get to know you, and
me too, man.
Don't be a stranger, honestly. Like my DMs are always open. We should chat more. We should keep going with this and talk to me about your journey in Europe, man. Like I would love to hear more about that. Take pictures, drop them in the Discord, dude.
No doubt. You'll probably be hearing from me about where I'm at in Tales here soon anyway. I got to talk to someone, right?
Yes, dude. I am stoked. I love it. Well, again, Delroy, thank you so much for carving out time with me today, man.
Hey, thanks, Sean, man. I really appreciate it.
Forgot to mention it at the top of the show. Some of you guys might have been following me on Twitter at Sean Capri, Sean like Connery, Capri like the pants. But I did another trip over to the old comic shop. I was downtown in my city, and there's a lovely, just an absolutely wonderful little shop. Just like what you would hope and dream your local comic shop would be like. That's this one. There's another comic shop around here that isn't. It's enormous and probably the best, but it kind of knows that it's the best, and like. I don't really have discerning taste at this point. I don't really know exactly what I'm looking for. I'm just, looking for a welcoming building with comics that I can buy inside, and people that can introduce me to the stuff. So I had a great time buying all the things. I haven't read anything yet, but Ryan Turford and we're gonna be in Toronto, and in person, we're gonna have a lot of. We don't normally get like this much time. You guys might be surprised to hear it, but we record the Xbox Drive together. Of course, every single week we get at least that hour or so together. But that's kind of it. Like we don't really get, and actually, and also Halo. But like we don't get to like strategize enough about like the Patreon and stuff. So stay tuned for that. We've been floating ideas around. If the patrons at $3 plus, you get an exclusive podcast where every single month called the You Me Capri Podcast. Ryan and I are dropping hints all over that. And patrons at $3 plus also get that Pants Patreon podcast for Patrons Podcast, where people can ask me whatever the hell they want, and I will answer it with the utmost earnestness, earnest honesty. I answer them anyways. Comics are starting to pile up behind me. You guys know the shelf that is behind me, the YouTuber kind of like starter kit IKEA shelf. It's here. It's mostly been Amiibo and a couple of toys kind of behind me, but lately books are starting to look kind of good back here. So stay tuned for that. Patreon.com/YouMeCapri. You can support it right now. No comic stuff just yet, but probably soon. Scott Pilgrim. There's probably I'll lay those hints right now. I think that's probably safe to say. Something to do with Scott Pilgrim, and maybe January. Maybe we'll see. But we'll have more to talk to you guys about pretty soon. hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode of We the Gamercast. And if you did, you can follow me on Twitter at Sean Capri. Sean, like, oh wait, did I already do that already? I just did that. Sean like Connery, Capri like the pants, Twitter. Tell all your friends. What the hell, man? I used to have like a whole thing to this, but this is the end of the show. Shout out to Lockleth, who actually made it to the end of the show. She's like, what the? I had her in stitches. Well, I didn't, but this thing that happens at the end where Jason, Jason's dad. Jason is the kid. His dad lost him. This is from that PS3 game, Heavy Rain. Okay, bye.
Jason! 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 Sean! 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 Sean, where are you? Jason! 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 Sean! 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 Jason! 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 Jason!